Hi, welcome to Real Talk. Today my guest is Lylian. She's a feminine dating coach. Hi Lylian, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
What got you into this field?
It was my own love journey, which really started when I was very young, just seeing my mother, single mother, struggling in her own love life, and then really being very independent, right? That taught me to be super hyper independent to the point that I became more like a man than a woman. And that really made me struggle, right? I struggled with having healthy, happy relationships with men. I didn't know how to relate to men. I didn't know how to communicate with men in a way, as a lady, as a woman.
Understood. So, having witnessed what your mother went through, and then in your own personal life, I mean, at what age did you kind of realize, hey, I'm not doing this. There's some things I need to learn. I have to do something different because my success rate is not where I want it to be. Around what? Were you a teenager? Were you, like, at what point?
I actually realized that very later on in my life. In the beginning, I didn't really see that as a problem because I was, young and immature, and I was just, meeting men, and it was fun. But it got to that point in your life, that point where you're like, I want to settle down. I want to have a family. I want to be able to have that joy in my life. And so that was, I would say, around maybe close to 30. It was, yes, close to
Would you
30.
call it late? Is that late or?
Late, I would say, yeah. And it was because what got me was that I want a family. I want to have that. And I was getting to that point of like, if things don't change, then am I gonna end up alone? I didn't want that.
Was that a real fear, or you just
Oh
felt like?
yes.
So, give me an example of like that point where you realize, hey, this has to change. Like, in it could be a relationship. Like, what was there something specific that prompted you? Oh, you know what? And I'll let you answer the question first because I have a second question. Just I'm getting ahead of myself. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, it was with my ex. I think that's when it hit me because I wasn't able to have a healthy relationship with him. I kept trying different ways of being with him, and nothing seemed to work. And when that relationship ended, I that's when I truly saw that there was something that I had to change in me. Something had to change because I kept attracting men that I wasn't that interested in, like the men that were attracted to me, I wasn't so interested in, right?
Like,
And
story of a life.
right. And then the men that I was interested in, they were not interested in pursuing. The relationships kind of fizzled out.
But did you see something online? What sparked that initial, I guess, decision to say, hey, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to do this?
Yeah, well, what sparked that decision was seeing how some women were so natural at attracting and being with a man. And myself, I was struggling in that area. So
Okay.
that's when I'm like, maybe they know something that I don't. Maybe I can be a student here and learn, something that I don't know, where I can become that woman so then I can have that man that I truly wanted. And that's when it really got me thinking, like, what is this? And when I started in that feminine energy journey, it it just it I was so in awe with everything because it was so new. It
Yes,
was so different from what I was taught,
absolutely.
and what I saw with my own, like my own relationships and the relationships that I saw with my mom. It was so different the way these teachings were, how you could be as a woman, how to really attract and keep that man. And it's not even so much about keeping the man, but having a healthy dynamic in a relationship. That was the biggest thing.
So, how did you make that transition from, okay, I'm a student of this and I'm learning and I'm employing what I've learned to, you know what? I want to teach other women to do this. I want to teach other women how to live and bask in their feminine energy and how to attract.
Yeah.
When did you get to that point?
I felt so inclined to want to share this more and more as I was learning it and as I was implementing it myself. So I was basically my first client, right? I was my
I
very
like
first
that.
client. Yes.
You're your own client.
I am
Yeah.
my own client. As I was seeing the results, as I was seeing how the tools that I was implementing in my life were changing my love life, that's when I realized, there's something here that I can teach, and I want all women out there to be able to experience the type of love and relationship that I have with my husband. I want them to experience that deep emotional intimacy that I was craving so much, and I finally have that. And so this is why I'm doing it, why I am in this, and why I'm so passionate about it.
So what do you personally get?
Oh, yeah, I get so much from it.
I mean, apart, of course,
Yeah,
from what
yeah,
you share with your
yeah.
husband, but what do you get from when you coach somebody? Do you get that feeling like, yes, like what do you feel
Yeah.
when you see success in one of your clients and they come back, or you get feedback? I'm sure.
Oh yes, oh yes, definitely. And it feels incredible to see, a woman who starts with me, working with me, and seeing the results that she's getting, and seeing, I actually just had one recently. She messaged me yesterday. She's celebrating her 1 year anniversary with her men, and she's so happy, and they're well on their way to marriage. She is like, I just feel it. Like I feel the relationship is so different from every other relationship that I've had in the past. And it's very rewarding, it's very rewarding to be able to have that, to see that and see that fruition, right? The work that we've done together.
Yes,
And really it's about that person being able to do that for herself, and being brave enough to say, hey, I need help. I need help. I can't, I don't know. I don't have the skills. So yeah, it's wonderful to see that, and it makes me happy. It makes me so happy to be able to be a part of it, right? Just be a guide, be a part of it, be a mentor in some way.
yes,
Because I would have loved to have that in my life when I was, struggling.
absolutely, absolutely. And the women that come to you, like, what do they tell you? Like, okay, they obviously have issues and problems, whatever, and they come to you. What do they really tell you? Like, hey, I need help, or I feel like something has to like. How do they articulate their issues to make you or allow you to pinpoint and kind of and do you tailor like do you tailor your coaching based on the personality, or you just it's just sort of like a blanket sort of like
Uh,
approach?
it's very tailored to the block or the pattern that they I am seeing in them. So if there is, the way they communicate their problems to me is usually through a story, right? We love to tell stories.
Absolutely.
And so it's through a story of like, okay, so this is what happened, this is what he did, this is what I did, this is, and so it's a story that they share with me. And through that, I am able to see, their mindset, their beliefs, how they are communicating with their men. And so I get them to do tools with me and sort of like exercises in ways so they can see how it works differently. So when they are, going through that experience, they may have been very much in their masculine energy. So I teach them in a very gentle and loving way, but they see it through the exercises where I say, okay, so now I want you to speak to him this way. I want you to say this to him. How does that feel? Right? So we go down into her feelings and really get her to go down there to her feminine, experience her feminine energy and speak through that. And that's when they're like, wow, that is so different. That is so different than what I've been doing myself. Like this, the way I'm articulating my feelings, the way I'm communicating at this moment is so different, and I can really feel it. And I know that if I do it differently, I'm gonna have different results, and they absolutely do.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the male husbands and boyfriends,
Yes.
d- have you ever had a situation where you're coaching and they're present, or you do it, they have to be away, they have to be absent because,
Yes, I usually like them to be. It's a private session. I let
okay,
them know this is, I want them to be fully present. So it's best for them to be, on their own at home, where there's not going to be any distractions. It's just going to be her and I really talking about this, because when there's anybody around, she may not be able to open up the way she would. in privacy. So I prefer that she is on her own when she's, doing the
And
sessions.
and I don't know. This question has popped into my mind, but the your clients, do they actually tell their spouse or partners that they're doing this, or is that something some of them I would think would like to keep hidden
Yes.
because they don't want to be like, hey, I have this issue. I feel like I'm not, and I think just becoming this brand new person for your partner is more alluring than being like, hey, I'm doing this thing and now I'm contrived, so to speak, right? And
Yeah, well, some of it call it therapy, which it can be very similar to
yes,
therapy
yes.
because we do a lot of, childhood like work. We do a lot of shadow work.
So it goes deeper. It's not just
Oh
okay.
yeah, it's not. We're not like this is. Yeah, it goes way deeper into their trauma, past traumas that they had. I mean,
Interesting.
yes, we absolutely do. We have to work through all that because a lot of what is happening in their life, a lot of the patterns that they're showing
It's
up.
influenced by the past.
Exactly. Yes.
Not many of us make that link. It's very real. It's
Yes.
very real.
Yeah. And
Wow.
that's why it helps so much because it's not surface level. I'm not here to let them know like this is what you say to him when he says that, right? It's deeper. It's like why is this coming up for you? How are you really feeling, right? What stories are you telling yourself when he does this? Right? And that's where a lot of the beliefs come up because they start realizing, oh, wait a minute, I've been telling this really old story my whole life, not
Yes.
just with him, but with other men,
Yes.
right? And so when that starts coming up, that's the time when we start healing. Little by little, we start shifting into a more healthy way of seeing our partner, right? He's not the villain. He's showing up there. This is an opportunity for you to take care of you and heal those wounds, right?
Yes.
Because we all have core wounds.
Yes.
So it's a matter of healing those core wounds and realizing that that person that's showing up for you, your partner, the way he's showing up for you, there's a reason why he's showing up for you, right? And this is an opportunity for you to heal those core wounds.
And do you ever get feedback from the spouse? Do you ever like the man? I don't know when he's aware that this is happening. Do ever come to you and say, "Hey, you're doing wonders. Keep doing what you're doing. 'Cause this is the thing I never knew I needed in my life, but it's here." And do you ever get that feedback sometimes?
Not from them directly, of course, because I don't have a
Through you get it
relationship,
through.
but through my
Yes.
clients,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
definitely. They're like, oh yeah, he's loving this other, how I'm being now.
What can a potential client expect to get from your coaching when they come in? Because I'm assuming that they come in and they have their own expectations. What do you send them away with?
Yeah, so what we work on in my program is a lot of emotional intelligence. I feel that it's the core of the program is emotional intelligence. It's learning how to communicate with their partner, how to take care of their emotions in a way that they feel good about it, right? That they're able to regulate and self-soothe and know what their patterns are too in order to break them and find healthy ones that they can actually have a good relationship. And also, a lot of boundary settings. That's another thing that some of us women are terrible at doing. We
Okay.
don't know how to communicate our boundaries. We don't know what our boundaries are even, right? And it's hard to express those to our partner. So they definitely learn how to do that and just mindset. It's a shift in mindset. And they come in maybe not sure if this is gonna work or, could be like, are we gonna have strategy manipulation and we're gonna make a man do this and that? And then they find out, oh, it's all about me really. It's all about me growing and, realizing what my patterns are and self-improvement. And so they leave realizing that now they can just be authentically themselves. They can open up their hearts and they can communicate in a way that their men can understand.
Do you see yourself ever coaching males?
Yeah, I would be very much open to coaching men because this is not just about like even forgetting about feminine and masculine energy. Let's go deep into your, subconscious beliefs about you, about relationships, about women, right? So this is deeper than just what we're talking about here. And so I think for a man, I would love to be able to coach men one day, and I've had been approached by men actually.
You have.
Yes, I have been
And
approached.
were they partners of your clients, or were they like friends who they were told, hey, you know?
They're just like on my social media. I put up this stuff, and they're like, "Okay, I want to know what my about this because I have this girlfriend," and then they give me a scenario what's going on in their lives, and they're like, "I want to learn from you." I haven't coached a
You
woman, but
haven't, but I
but
mean,
I've been
based on the
approached. Yeah.
responses that you're getting, is
Yeah.
the idea sort of like building a little bit?
Yes, maybe one day I'll be open to being able to coach a man and or male and see because it's a different perspective, right? Of how they can also attract the female. So, and of course, I have that experience myself in the way that I'm a woman, so I know what I need from my men, right? So I can teach them as well that perspective of what a woman wants, what a woman needs in a relationship.
And do you get more married couples?
Yeah, most of them are single women who want to get married. That's most of my clients that come to me. There are some women that are in a relationship or are in a marriage, but not as many. I think mostly are single women who are looking to find their partner.
Wow. So, for the women out there who are open to this, to being coached and feeling like something needs to change in the way, their way of doing it, it's not sustainable, it's not working, it's not producing success, what do you say to them?
That there is hope.
How does the process go? I have no idea. How does it,
Yeah, so the process is usually they find me on social media on one of my platforms and they reach out to me and I book a discovery call with them. We have a short conversation just to see where they're at, where they want to be, and if my coaching is for them, right? If we are a good fit in terms of like we were talking about.
oh, so you go through qualification.
Yes,
Oh, interesting.
yes.
And when it comes to the feminine energy in family, how do you navigate that as opposed to just the relationship when it comes to a family, raising a family, being in a family, being in a relationship, and trying to keep the family unit together? How does the femininity, like, sort of, how should I say it, energy apply?
Yeah, I mean, you can apply it with everybody, really, right? As a woman or as a man, you can really apply it with everybody. And like I said before, I apply it with my mom. I apply it with my friends. I am more of more compassionate towards them. I'm more understanding towards them because I'm able to be more understanding towards me, right? So it's all about self acceptance and self love really reflects right with other people, and that is something that I had to learn in order to have better relationships and seeing my mother as a human being. A lot of times we don't
Yes.
see them as human beings, we see them as a parent, and we think that they should be perfect or they should be a certain way, but they're human beings and they've gone through their own trauma, they've gone through their own troubles. And realizing that really helped me because now I'm like, wow, my mom has gone through so much. And
Yes.
I can sympathize with that. And I can be a better person and have a better relationship with her just by me understanding her better.
What are three things you can tell a woman or advise a woman that would help her be more in her feminine energy?
Yeah, so I truly, truly believe that the first thing is to slow down. In our society, we're always rushing. There's always a deadline. There's always things that we must do. And that keeps us up in our head, in our masculine energy, always taking action, always doing. And that takes us away from just being, just taking a breath. That it's even like people don't even want to do that, or they are even putting it on their phone because they're forgetting to do that, right? Just
Yes.
taking a breath. So slow down, be intentional with that. Even in your everyday, just take a little bit of a break to maybe walk a little slower, maybe smell the roses. You know that saying, smell the
Yes. Smell the
roses,
roses.
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Um, I think that's one of the biggest things of being able to lean into your feminine energy. The second thing that I would say is feel her feelings. That's the one of the biggest ones. Really feel your feelings. Under, and not just like try to, figure out what they are, but just sit with it. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry. A lot of times, what we do is we find other distractions, right? We don't want to feel the feelings. We just want to go and keep going. We're strong, independent women.
Yeah.
We shouldn't feel any of that stuff,
Yes.
right? And that's key to being a human. It's being able to feel those feelings, and it's okay if it's not comfortable. Sit with the uncomfort, right?
Well, in my head, I'm listening and I'm thinking the males or the husbands, boyfriends in those relationships, I can't imagine there would be any sort of negative feelings towards this. Is there an art to flirting?
Ooh, yes, there is.
Teach me.
Yeah.
I'm willing.
You're willing,
I'm
right?
willing.
I think both women and men can really get something from this. And because I feel like we're not flirting enough out there.
Why though?
Yes,
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because we're afraid. We are afraid.
Who are
of
afraid,
being
men or
rejected.
women or both?
I think both. Because with my clients, I hear it all the time, right? They come and they're like, oh, I saw this guy, but I didn't know what to do. I was walking by and I kind of like just looked down. And I'm like, no, there is an art to this, okay? How to get his attention. And so what I do with my clients is I practice with them doing eye contact, body language, right? Smile. That's such a big thing. That's a lost art out there.
Well, I think traditionally, quote unquote, women really didn't have to learn how to flirt because you know why. I don't need to go into it. And I think today's men or modern men, we need a refresher because I find myself being rusty at it because I think I got lazier as I get more mature. And I tend to focus less on chasing. I focus more on other things that I deem more important. But everyone wants to have someone, in their life. As a woman, what would you do? Like if you see, of course you're married, but hypothetically speaking, what would you advise a woman to do if she, let's say, walking down the street? Because people are a little bit afraid. Like it's a stranger danger.
Yes.
What would you advise her to do to get the person's attention or to get a spark, get something going?
Yeah, so the first thing that I always say to my client is to practice flirting with everybody. It doesn't matter if it's an older person, someone that they're not super attracted to, but it's a matter of practicing because it's just about of making eye contact, smiling. There's nothing wrong with looking at someone and smiling, right? We call it flirting, but really it's just having a connection.
Yes.
Having a connection with someone. And you can have a connection with everybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be another,
It doesn't have to be an
opposite.
ulterior motive where it's
Yes.
leading to something.
Yes.
You just, like, I have this habit of when I see elderly people, I would smile at them and I would say hello, and they would almost seem surprised.
Yeah.
But going back to, for example, if I see a girl that I like or someone that I find attractive, I do the smile and the eye contact, and it works. But I'll give an example. Yesterday, I was going somewhere. I was in Olympic Village, and there were these two girls. And I was walking towards them, and they were walking towards me. And we're about, I think, 100 feet away from each other. And they looked at each other, and they did one of those things, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I'm just in my own zone. I didn't
Yeah.
think anything of it. And I just felt something. So I'm like, okay. And they started giggling and doing their thing. And as they got closer to me, they both just looked directly at me.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for that. I was like, kind of just thinking they're being silly, right? And then one girl did something very odd. She pushed the other girl like in my direction. No, that's something you see in high school, right? And I was
Very
like,
high school.
I'm 49 years old. I'm thinking to
Yes.
myself, okay, all right. I mean, they were attractive
Yes.
girls.
But
or
let's
whatever.
not do that. No,
But no, they didn't know how to act, right? So
Yes.
they were like talking, of
Yes.
course, and looking and like giggling, and then they both looked directly at me. I looked at them, and then she kind of pushed her friend, and then they started laughing, and it was just one of those moments. Of like, what was that? Kind of weird, but
Yes.
understandable.
Yes, and that's the thing, like learning how to sort of like get his attention. That's what it is, really, and have that connection. And I feel like a lot of times what women do is they grow in groups, right? They go in a group and they stick to each other, and that's really
Good or
hard.
bad? Good or bad?
I feel like that's a bad thing because I feel like that's intimidating for a man to like get up and go to a group of women. Whoa, I don't know.
It
You're
is
asking for
intimidating.
a
You know
lot,
what? It is intimidating.
right?
I remember. Yes, yes, yes.
Right?
It actually, yes.
And so I always say to my clients, like, if this is what you are, if you see a man that is attractive and that you like, just make eye contact and smile, and then find a time where you can just kind of leave the group if you're with a group, right? Kind of like
Yes.
maybe go to the restroom, washroom, or go to the bar, right? And still make that let him know that you're interested. But I always advise, because I'm all about being in your feminine energy, is to let the men be the men. Allow the men
Yes.
to come and, chase her.
So you don't advise approaching? Is you
I
do,
know, absolutely not.
why? What? Okay, as a man, I have my own opinions, but why wouldn't you advocate that?
Because the women that I coach are women who want to be in their feminine, and women who are in their feminine means that you are magnetic, you attract, you receive. So we want to set the stage from day one.
Okay.
I want the men to know that she is a feminine energy woman. How can she do that, right? By leaning back, by allowing, by showing with body language, of
Yes.
course, right? That she's interested,
Yes.
but she's not going to take the initiative. The man initiates. And I know this sounds very old school. For
Kinda,
a
kinda.
lot of people, yes, I'm sure they're going to be like, what are you talking about?
It's a double-edged sword for me, and
Yes.
again, at least from a man's perspective, because I think that some men would, as much as I'm saying, hey, why wouldn't they
Yeah.
do that? If a woman were to approach, I wouldn't. In my mind, it would cross my mind, does she do that to every guy? And that's the inherent risk, right? So for me, it would be like, wow. But I think it takes, I don't know, what it would take for a man to be able to push that aside and know it's probably just an insecurity within me that's, prompting that question. But the whole art of flirting, to me, I think both sides need a refresher, if not a whole lesson,
Absolutely.
and probably a degree,
Yes.
because my flirting has become, how should I say it, stale.
Yes.
Because the more you practice, the better you
Get at it.
become.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is what I do all the time. I go out for a walk. Even though I'm married, I'm still connecting with people. I'm still making eye contact. I still want to say hello to that person. It doesn't mean that I want anything from that person. It's not like sexual. It's more connection, right? It's a connection that you're building. So if you practice by, going for a walk, looking at men,
It becomes natural.
it comes natural.
It becomes natural.
Exactly.
You don't want that awkward kind of feeling like, oh my
Yeah.
God, oh my God. You don't want that anxiety.
And you become an invitation to having the man, because now he knows, now he feels. Okay, so I'm gonna share a story with you. With my husband, this is what we did. So I met him taking salsa lessons, and it was a lot of fun, and it made that environment. That's one thing that I always say to my clients. In order to meet new men and bring in new men your way, go and do something fun,
Yes.
right? And interact with people. This is the way to do it, not just through online. We'll talk about online later, but in person is such a beautiful way to cultivate relationships, right? In person relationships. Anyway, I saw this man. He was very, very handsome across the room, and I'm like, wow, I could feel something, that chemistry.
You felt his eyes?
Yes, I felt
Okay.
his eyes on me, and I'm like, ooh. So
Yes.
what I did was I danced with him, right? Because we had to take turns with
Yes.
everybody. So I got to him. I did what I teach my clients, which is the eye contact, the smile, open body language of like, I like you, right?
Yes.
Kind of thing, without saying it.
What else?
And then I kind of said something like, you make me nervous. That's me kind of dropping the hanky.
Yeah. What do you teach your clients when it comes to initiating, like, on a dating app, what do you teach them specifically about initiating? Because some apps you have to, I think Bumble is the one where the female have to sort of initiate as opposed to the male. Is that a better one? Is that one that you?
Yeah, I actually don't like Bumble.
Okay.
I actually don't
Why?
like Bumble because of her initiating. I want her to be in her feminine as much as possible in everything that she does with dating. So I want her to stay in her feminine. So Bumble, I just feel that it's too, and you have to be kind of in your masculine because you're the one that has to initiate. And so that's the reason why I don't like it. There's
But doesn't
other,
it put a woman in a
yeah,
power position because she gets to choose? Now it's her at her discretion.
yeah.
She gets to choose. I mean, in a way,
Doesn't she always?
yes, of course. But in that situation, I actually liked it because it was different from all the others, right? It's like you like me, I like you. This one is she initiates, you don't. The woman's role, to my understanding, after listening to you for a while, is to be in her feminine energy, attract.
Yes.
Don't hunt. Don't be the hunter.
You're not the hunter unless you want to be, unless that's what you want to be. Both women and men have masculine and feminine energy in them, right?
Yes, agree.
So if a woman wants to be in her masculine energy, that's great. That's incredible. Yeah, what you're going to find out there is that the men that she will be attracting, they are going to be more in their feminine energy, right? Because we're talking about polarity here,
Polarity,
right?
yes.
You're going to be attracting the whole opposite. So if you want a masculine energy man, you have to be the opposite. And what is that? Feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
Simple as that. But I know it can be very complicated when you actually live it and
When you
experience
actually
it.
live in it. Yes, yes, yes. What advice would you give to someone who think they don't need your coaching? Like, I don't need this. I got it. It's working for me. Or I'm having trouble, but it could be work. But what would you say to that person
I
who
mean,
feels
it's up to them. If they think they don't need it, they don't need it.
like you say,
Right?
you're not going to try to convince someone?
No.
Do you have friends and family who would come to you for advice?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
of course, without wanting to pay you, they're like, "Can you help me out? What do you actually like help out close friends and family with pro bono advice?"
I support them as much as I can as a family member and as a friend.
Wanted to ask a question. How do you balance the male female energy in relationships? How do you create that sort of
Yeah,
balance?
that's a really good question actually, because like we, talked about tonight was, a man and a woman, they both have these feminine and masculine energy, right? And then when we come together, that create that polarity. And so in the beginning of dating, I always advise my clients that they need to be more in their feminine if what they want to attract is a masculine energy man, right? So for her to lean into her feminine as much as possible in the beginning of dating, right? To allow a man to really step into his masculine, right? If she wants a protector, a provider, a doer, you know, you have to lean into your feminine in order to allow your men to be
So
that.
by her being or leaning into it, she now allows him and give him the safe space to
Yes.
be.
Yes, and she sees whether this man is capable of doing that, of stepping up to his masculinity and be able to be that man for her, right? So
Yes.
she's observing, she's seeing whether this man is able to do that with that energy. A lot of times what happens is women start off being in their feminine energy because that's what we are in naturally, right?
Yes.
But eventually, the masculinity sneaks in there,
Yeah,
and
it
we
starts creeping in.
start become yeah we become more masculine, right? And so that's when trouble starts. And it's usually, I find, around maybe 2 to 3 months in the relationship when the woman starts changing.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of times relationships abort. They don't actually come to fruition. They don't blossom because of this.
You hit that point where is it safe to say that's like when the true side of the person comes out, where you sort of like you're not as relaxed. Well, how should I say? When you get in a relationship, you sort of like you're really not yourself. A lot of people are not themselves because they want to be in their best behavior,
Yeah.
and then it becomes a burden because you're carrying this thing, and then you want to become your true self, which who you really are, and then that comes out, and then the masculine, like, drips starts coming out, and then the man is like, wait a minute. Well, again, from a man's perspective, it's like, she's changing. when in fact she wasn't really living in a feminine energy from the beginning.
Yes.
So at that breaking point, you get to that point and it's like, okay, abort, because we can't, both
Yes.
people are looking at it from same or different perspective.
Yes, exactly. So then it's a matter of you just, it's a dance. That's how I see dating. It's a dance, right?
Yes.
A dance. And what happens when you dance with someone, right? One has to lead, the other has to follow. There can be two leaders when you dance because what happens? You start stomping on
You
each
start
other,
stopping each other.
right? You can't dance.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't flow beautifully. There has
Yes.
to be one or the other. So
Yes.
same thing in dating, right? One has to take the masculine, role, and the other one has to take the feminine role. As the relationship unfolds and the relationship becomes more, like more of a long-term relationship, and you're more comfortable in your roles,
Yes.
then you can negotiate. The word negotiation was one of those words that I disliked, but my husband brought it in. Yes, he was the one. He
Okay.
would say, we can negotiate everything, and I just thought this is so stale. Feels like business.
Yes.
But he was right. You can
You can
negotiate
negotiate.
everything in a relationship, right? So I started seeing like what do I want to naturally do, right? I want to be in my feminine, but there may be masculine energy, roles or things that I want to take on in my household, right?
Yes.
And so it's a matter of negotiating that with my husband. And also the other way around, where I feel like I have been maybe more in my masculine role in this aspect in the household, and I want to be now more in my feminine. Let's negotiate that, right?
Yes.
So it's fluid. It's not rigid. It's not like I am going to be in this energy and that's it with everything. No, it's a matter of like a beautiful dance that flows. That's it.
What about careers? Like some women are in positions of power and have a high stress career where they're the leaders and they have to exhibit sort of mask, especially in the
Yes.
corporate world.
Yes.
How do you then switch that off? Do you have to deal with that in some of your clients where you like,
Yes.
okay, you have to hit that switch? And
Yes, if they want to be with a masculine energy man at home, she does have to switch off, right? You can be at your most masculine in your career, in your business, in whatever you do outside your home. But when it comes to romantic relationships, if what you want is a masculine energy man, then you definitely want to be switching that off, right? Because a man does not want to be with another man. He wants a woman,
well,
right?
it depends. It
Yes,
depends. But I get what you're
yes,
saying. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And the same thing, a woman doesn't want to be with another woman unless obviously that's what
That's a true. Yeah.
But
Yes.
she wants like a man, a masculine energy man that makes decisions, that's the protector, that's the provider in many ways, and it doesn't necessarily have to be financially, right? Because we now both are able to work and make money, but in other ways a man can provide for you. And I mean, for me personally, I do like, I do want my husband to be more of the provider financially in some things,
Yes.
because it makes me feel like a woman when I go on a date. I love it when he pays for it. I never have to take out my credit card, right? When I go with my husband, I allow him to do that for me.
Yes.
And it feels so good to receive, right? And that's another thing. It's like receiving with joy, right? Being able to receive from my man with joy. Because how many times have we heard of women complaining about men, right? Being like, well, he's not doing the things that I want him to do.
Yeah, I was thinking of that question actually. How do you, like, as a woman who is living in a feminine energy, how do you talk to your partner or make him feel secure enough in being, if he's not basking in his masculine energy, how do you encourage him? How do you?
Yeah, so I don't feel like it's a woman's job ever, right? To make
Ooh.
a man,
Agreed,
right?
agreed. But
But
there are guys out there. Like
but a woman does, obviously take part of that. She obviously influences her husband, her partner, right? You want to influence, you want to inspire your man, right? But you don't want to take on the burden of someone else's problems, right? You have to trust your man that he is capable of doing whatever he needs to do himself. Because a lot of times what happens is women come to me saying like, I want to make him be this way, or I want to change him in some way, right? And it's like, no,
no, it's not gonna work.
exactly, accept him for who he is or move on. You
Yes.
can't make him change. You can't force him. He is who he is, and the best way that you can really have a good relationship is by accepting him for who he is. I'm not saying here like someone that's gonna be abusive. I'm talking about a good man
Yes.
who is in love with her, who's taking care of her, who
Yes.
wants the best for her.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we covered so much ground here. We'll have to close, and I just wanted to say to you guys out there, she's amazing in what she teaches, what she coach. Um, in the comment section below, you can get all her contact information. This is Real Talk, and we have today Lylian Toscano as our guest, and she was amazing. Thank you, guys.